Our first lesson this week is just recapping on the Pythagoras theorem and trig. If you remember, Pythagoras theorem, you were quite good at this before we left anyway. You add the two sides at the right angle squared. So you add them and square them, and it equals the other side squared. And basically, the wee tip that we always worked with. So if you're looking for the longer side, the way we did it was we added them and then square rooted them. And if we were looking for a shorter side, we subtracted them and then square rooted them. That's what we did before. So what we'll do is we'll look at a couple of wee examples of this just to get you back into it again. So you have 3.9 centimetres here, and this is 5.7 centimetres, and you want x. So very quickly, there's your right angle. You add the two at the right angle squared, and that equals that one squared. So you work that out and you square root it. Just use your calculator for this. I'll go through how you put it into the calculator. So square root, I wrote with brackets in, 3.9 squared, add 5.7 squared, and then close your brackets to finish off what's inside the root, and you get, push your SD button, x equals 6.91 centimetres. And we'll do one more of those. So if you had a triangle like so, and if this was 7.2, and if this was 12, and you want to x. This time I'm looking for a shorter side. So x squared is 12 squared minus 7.2 squared. So x is the square root of that. So just using your calculators as you did last time, you get x to be 9.6 centimetres. Now, so that's Pythagoras checked over. I'm going to check over your basic trig now. So trig is if you have a side and an angle other than the 90 degrees. So I'll do a couple of wee examples. So before I do that, you just go through the formula. So you've got an angle. Opposite the right angle is always called the hypotenuse. Opposite the angle is always called the opposite, and the one beside is called the adjacent. And always label your sides in that order. And you use so, ca, toa. S is sine the angle. You must put the angle in. Equals opposite over hypotenuse. Cos the angle equals adjacent over hypotenuse. And tan the angle must have an angle in is opposite over adjacent. So now we'll run through a couple of wee examples just to check that you can remember how to do this. So the first one, this is 9 and this is x and this angle is 34. So the first thing you do is label your sides. Opposite the right angle is hypotenuse, opposite your angle is opposite, the other side is adjacent. You want the opposite and you know the adjacent. So if you go up to SOHCAHTOA, O and A are together for tan. So you write tan, the angle, is opposite over adjacent. Then you put in your information. So tan 34 is opposite over adjacent. You want the x on its own. When you bring that 9 over, make sure it goes in front of the tan. And then just go to your calculators. Always make sure there's a wee D up there and not R. So you will go 9 times tan 34 equals 6.07. If you find it doesn't have a D, you can fix it by going Shift, Set Up, and press 3 for degrees. And that will always get you that wee D up there, just in case it wipes off. So I'm going to do another one. So if we had a shape like this, and 1.6, and this is 48, and I'm looking for x. So it starts off the same way. Opposite the right angle is hypotenuse, opposite your angle is the opposite, and the other side is the adjacent. You want this and you know this. So you go back up to your SOHCAHTOA, A and H are together for cos. So you write cos the angle, write out your formula, is adjacent over hypotenuse. So cos 48 is adjacent over hypotenuse. The problem this time round is what you're looking for is in the bottom. So you must bring that x up and it becomes multiply. Now you bring this over and you're bringing the whole thing over so it becomes a division. The next example you'll see when it becomes inverse. So on your calculators, 1.6 divided by cos 48 gives you 2.39 or 2.4. Now the last one I'm going to do is going to show you what happens when you're looking for an angle. So we'll call that angle there as I'm looking for, and this is 8 and this is 4. Same procedure, label your sides. Opposite the right angle is hypotenuse, opposite your angles opposite, other side adjacent. You know the opposite, you also know the hypotenuse. Write out your SOHCAHTOA again. You've got O and H, so it's sine. Sine the angle is opposite over hypotenuse. Sine the angle you don't know, opposite is 4 over 5. This time I'm going to move the sine on its own. So you see the difference. Up here it was cos 48, there was a number as well. Down here it's just the sine. And when you're moving just the sine, that's when it becomes inverse. So on your calculators, shift sine 4 divided by 8 and press your equals to give you 53.13 degrees. Now, I now want you to work through exercise A on page 80. It's chapter 35. And I want you to do questions 6 to 8. And exercise B, I want you to try questions 1 right through to question 26.